I think it's time. I'm going to go ahead and just do a brief intro to all the attendees and authors and contributors and editors. I'm really excited and thank you for coming. It's Independent Bookstore Day. So, yay! If you have a drink, take a sip. And thank you for celebrating with us. It's 5 o'clock, so no one's judging. So please enjoy. We're really excited to welcome this panel, especially one because Jerry is one of my favorite ex-coworkers from BookSync. He worked at our Alameda store for several years and ran the events there and has gone on to do some amazing things. He now works for Alexander Book Company, and any independent bookstore you want to support today could really use the love. So if you shop from us, wonderful. If you shop from Jerry's store, great. As long as you shop local, you shop indie, that's really our main goal. And we're just so happy that this panel came together. It's just very exciting. Akashic Books has traveled the Bay Area with San Francisco Noir and Oakland Noir, and now we are so lucky to have Berkeley Noir. We're welcoming editors Jerry Thomspson and Owen Hill, with contributors Jason Ridler, Aya deLeon, Lucy Jane Bledsoe, Lexi Pandell, Jim Curet, and Jim Nisbet. With that, I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A, so anyone who has comments or questions, please feel free to enter those in either box. Myself and Hannah, my coworker, will be looking after those, and we'll make sure your questions get addressed to all or any of the panelists that you want to specify them to. So please feel free to type in there. I'll also be linking the links to buy all of the noir books from our website so that you can take a look at all of them. And with that, I'm just going to leave it to Jerry and Owen to kick off the conversation. I'm going to hide myself and I'll jump back on if needed. So everyone have a good time.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you very much. Thank you. Happy Independent Bookstore Day, everyone. My name is Jerry Thomspson, one of the editors for Berkeley Noir. On behalf of my co-editor, Owen Hill, thank you for being here today. It's been a crazy week. And I personally want to just say I want to dedicate this event to Chadwick Boseman, who we lost yesterday. His supernova talent will always remain as a source of inspiration for all of us. I know for the Bay Area, the film was shot here, Black Panther. Anyway, rest in peace, brother. I want to dedicate the event to him tonight. It gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone to the event. Owen, my co-editor, is here with me. We're going to just maybe go through some of the introductions and get into some of the stories. Yeah.
Right. Shall we go around the room to start? Also, thanks to the contributors. Thanks to you for coming and do support indie bookstores. That's why they're doing this. Where shall we begin, Jerry?
I'm having the contributors introduce themselves and tell us where their stories take place, and maybe a little bit about why their stories are in that location. And I would love if each one would give a samplet of the story, a little excerpt, like we did the videos.
Shall we go around the room as it looks
So, let's start at the beginning with like the beginning of the book. Lexi Pandell. Hi, Lexi.
Hey, thanks so much for hosting us. And like a quick interlude before I pop in here. I actually am in Berkeley Noir all because of the independent bookstore. I walked into an indie bookstore that Jerry was working at on Piedmont Ave, and I had a tote bag from a writing conference. And Jerry said, "Are you a writer?" And we got to chatting, and he told me about this cool anthology he was putting together, and I was like, "Sign me up!" So help local, guys. So my story is set in the Berkeley Hills. I grew up in the hills, though in Oakland, not in Berkeley, though very close. And it always felt very strange to me growing up that the city could be so close, but the hills felt so far away from everything. There's these skinny winding roads and this wildlife, and it's often shrouded in fog. And it's a place that fascinates me. I've written about the hills before, and it felt like a really perfect setting in the way that's unsettling and sort of alienating for this particular story. So I'll read a little excerpt as an introduction. Mariana, the main character of the story, is a grad student at Cal, and she is house sitting for a famous professor. And this is the moment when she arrives at his place to house sit. I unlatch the gate and walk through a garden to get to the front door. Tomatoes on tangles of vines, plumes of herbs, beans racing along trellises like string lights, fireworks of green leaves belonging to carrots, kale, lettuce, beets. There's even a raised bed with corn. Who the fuck grows corn at home? Patrick Bloom, I guess. I knock, willing my stomach to untie itself from its knot. After a moment, Patrick Bloom, the world's most renowned health writer, opens the door and looks out. Not in an unfriendly way, just a little blank, until he sees my shirt and bag and realizes that I am the grad student there to house sit. Mariana? I nod and he lets me in. It's the kind of house designed to feel like a home. I'd seen it featured in a magazine before. Patrick Bloom stands for something that intrigues me. Cleanliness, health, wholesomeness, the idea that your life can be better if you eat quinoa and listen to your body and walk more. Not that his work isn't based on science, just that the resulting advice is so simple and smart that you hate yourself for not thinking of it first. I'll wrap up there.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's great. Yay, Lexi.
I love that story, by the way, Lexi.
Oh, thank you.
Kicks it off nicely, doesn't it? What did we say? How about J.M. Curet? You go on and go next. Give us a little bit about yourself and yeah.
Sure, but it's interesting because Lexi and I share almost the same exact story as far as my experience with this particular anthology. I walked into an indie bookstore in the Piedmont area, and Jerry was there, and we got to talking, and he asked me if I was a writer, and we just had the best conversation, and then it just kind of blossomed from there. My name is James Curet, Jose. Most of my friends call me Manny. I've had a relationship with Berkeley for a very, very, very long time. And I lived in West Berkeley, but I've also, back in the day when the Berkeley Square was still there, and I'm talking late 80s, early 90s, dating myself now, but West Berkeley was where I hung. And so I've always had a relationship with that area. And the thing about Berkeley, and especially when it comes to I knew that I wanted to do something gritty, and grit is not something that automatically comes to mind when you think of Berkeley. But my experiences in West Berkeley, I felt that I wanted to focus more on the noir than on the Berkeley.
Yay.
So, and so this story that I wrote, Wife Beater Tank Top, was basically kind of like an amalgamation of, I'm not going to say real experiences, but definitely real people from that area and people that I've known. And I'm just going to do the last 2 minutes of the story, and there will be language. I couldn't for the life of me remember a text message or phone call about a scheduled visit from my PO, but I'd been preoccupied. My first thought was that I'd missed it somehow, but there was something in his voice that turned my gut. I looked over at Tina and she was pale, her bugged out eyes pleading with me not to open the door. Red, come on now. I'm sure whoever's in there will understand. A urinalysis is part of your parole agreement, buddy. Now be a good sport and open the door so I can do my job. I always found the phrase "against my better judgment" oxymoronic. How much better can your judgment be if you're going against it? Okay, Greg, give me a minute, I said. Don't let that motherfucker in here, Red, she whispered, trembling. Don't worry, I won't let him see you. No, you don't fucking get it. I know that voice, Red. I fucking know that voice. Just then I heard my door open. Fuck, said Tina. She dashed into the bathroom and hopped on my toilet trying to get the tiny window open. I turned back toward the front door and got hit with the butt of a gun on my skull. I dropped, barely conscious. Greg stood over me. KJ was right behind him. You just couldn't do it, huh, Red? Just couldn't keep your hands out of the cookie jar. Greg looked inside the bathroom. I wanted to say something, but couldn't. And you had to go and fuck this whole thing up. Yo, Greg, is this really necessary, man? Doing her, I mean? Asked KJ. Instead of answering KJ's question, Greg raised his gun, pointed it at Tina, and then I heard the distinct sound of a bullet traveling through a silencer. I heard the thump of a body drop. I rolled my eyes and could see Tina on the floor, her tank top already soaking in blood. KJ, it's not my fault you can't control your women. I have enough on my plate dealing with Cindy's OD and keeping your ass out of jail as it is. Go grab the saw and acid from the car, discreetly if you don't mind. I tried to move. Greg shot me in the stomach. I thought KJ told you there was stuff going on here that couldn't be compromised, Red. I thought you were smarter than this. Then again, I've been known to be wrong about people. I survived a 10-year stint in San Quentin. I did exactly what I was supposed to do, kept my head down, my ear to the grindstone, and my fucking mouth shut. I stayed alive and made it out. 1 week in West Berkeley, and it's all shot to hell. I'm fucking dying here.
Oh, I got chills. That's good. Love it. Thank you, man. That's
Yeah.
She's muted. Oh no. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's visit with Lucy Jane Bellezzo. Hi, Lucy.
Hey, hi everyone. Nice to see you all, and thank you for organizing this, and thanks to Books Inc. for having us. It's nothing I'd rather be doing right now than celebrating Independent Bookstore Day, just because democracy is all about voices, and nobody is supporting that better than libraries and independent bookstores. So thank you, Books Inc. Yeah, and thank you for Jerry and Owen for doing this anthology. I loved the phrase you just used, Manny. That's what you said you go by, right?
Yes.
Your relationship to Berkeley. I love that. And I guess that's what doing this story gave me an opportunity to do, to think about my relationship to Berkeley, which is, it's just a strange, crazy place. And it's kind of I love that Akashic decided to do a noir book about Berkeley, because it doesn't make, what, Berkeley Noir? But anyway, so I started thinking about what I wanted to write about, and I thought, well, what's the literal underbelly of the town? I thought it's the bay, it's like, what's the water, and, that we don't know whether the fish are clean enough to eat. It's just sort of this murky thing that defines our whole town and all the towns surrounding it. So I wanted to write about the marina in the bay, so that's what I did. I also like spending a lot of time on the water, and so I'll just read the first 2 paragraphs from my story, which is called The Tangy Brine of Dark Night. A lot of my story is about the bay, but it's also about the community of people who used to fish off the Berkeley Pier before they closed it. And now that the pier has been closed for years and years and years, it makes it all the more intriguing to me. So Kaylee's grandma weighed only 90 pounds by now, and so carrying her out to the car wasn't too difficult. She cradled the old woman, one arm under her knees and the other under her shoulders, and gently placed her lying down along the bench of the back seat. She saw that she'd left her grandma's sneakers untied, and so she made secure knots in the laces and then straightened the purple windbreaker, which had bunched up around her bony shoulders. Kaylee gently shut the car door. Would the trunk be better? Just the thought sent prickling uneasiness down the backs of Kaylee's arms. She would not put her grandma in the trunk. Period. Besides, she'd need to put the kayak in there. She pointed the remote at the garage door, afraid that it wouldn't open. Her grandma hadn't taken the car out in months, but it did open. The old white Pontiac started too, and Kaylee backed into the street, carefully straightened the wheels, and put the automatic transmission in park. I'll stop there.
Keep going. Oh, dude, so good.
I love this story too, Lucy.
Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you very much. I think we should stay by the bay, stay by the marina, and shoot over to Mr. Jim Nisbet. Hey, Jim.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, brother.
Nice to be here.
That's great.
Nice to meet all these new people too. including you, Jerry. We have a lot of mutual friends that are amazed we've never met.
Oh, well, it's
But here we are. Here we are, all in good time. Owen, many years. Mr. Curet, I heard John Cale at the B Square probably before the time you're talking about, but and I just talked to Alistair Johnson, actually traded emails with him yesterday. His car was stolen and found stripped a few blocks away, so you know it's not that noir, but it's not bad, right? So
Noir enough.
Sounds like a beginning of a war story.
Berkeley Marina. I'm a sailor. I have a wooden boat, which save your pity. I always liked a couple things. I always liked Jack London's Tales from the Fish Patrol, some of the earliest stuff he ever wrote. And one of the things it's Jack London. It's kind of hard to not like it, but one of the things I liked about it was he just dove in. And if you didn't know anything about sailing and how sailboats work and stuff like that, I failed to understand how you could follow one of those stories, except it was Jack London, and he could pull you through it no matter what. But there was a lot of, larboard and starboard and mast tangs and stuff like that. So and this story has a lot of that in it later. I'm just going to read the other thing. Okay, let me read you this. I'll read you the first page. It's called Boy Toy. Takes place at the Berkeley Marina, Berkeley Yacht Harbor. It says here, Captain Ron Tagus was pairing a whiskey with a weather check when his phone rang. He glanced at the display, 2:35 a.m., blocked. He finished the pour, turned down the VHF, and took the call. What's up, boss? We're going out. Sure. Captain Ron glanced over his shoulder at a calendar tacked to the bulkhead behind him. What day? He set down the bottle and drew the flat stub of Harper's pencil out of the folded rim of his watch cap. Tonight, came the answer. He moved the tip of the pencil to a square labeled Monday. What time? What time is it now? 2:36. Let's shoot for 3:15. The faceted lead of the knife-sharpened pencil hovered above the empty square. That's not tonight. That's this morning. Your circadian hair splitting is of no interest to me at the moment. That was the boss's carefree vocabulary, all right, but the tone was off, brittle, like. Ron turned away from the calendar. Reagan, under sail, the boss added. Captain Ron glanced at the darkened porthole that topped the whiskey bottle like the dot on a letter I. There will be a little weather. All the better. Pause. Ron asked her where she was. On the bridge. How fast are you going? 103. He believed her. Hey. Hey, what? You okay? Just peachy. She hung up. So,
nice.
in North, huh?
It's nice. It's warm. Dangerous.
There will be weather. And just to finish that, in North Beach, in the 70s, I think it was, kind of like, I don't want to say when North Beach was North Beach, but it's there to be said. There was a platinum blonde who drove a woman, I think it was a woman, who drove a brand new British Racing Green Jaguar XKE convertible, always with the top down. And the license plate was Boy Toy, her license plate. And I filed it, and you guys gave me the excuse to use it, for which I thank you.
Love it. I saw the ticket right there.
Yeah, I really like it that so many of the stories mention the Bay, and that more than one have the Bay almost as a character in the story. And I feel it's like Berkeley takes over the water. We really should have our own Navy, and I like that a lot.
Yes.
I think Jim should be the admiral of the Berkeley Navy.
For sure.
Place as a character in noir is a strong salient of noir. I mean, of course, there's Faulkner, and it's set on and on, but it's really an aspect of noir that is, I personally, having said about 10 books, at least 10 books in San Francisco, have been feeling the rug getting pulled out from under me, unless you count real estate noir, which is my favorite new category.
Ooh, no way. That's hot.
Give it to somebody else. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Jim. Awesome. This. deLeon in the house.
Hey.
Instagram today. I love it. Welcome. Tell us what you've been going on. Tell us about your story, where your story is taking place, and give us a little snippet.
Say again?
Give us a little snippet of your story.
No other folks? I will do. Are other folks coming through a little distorted? Everyone's sounding a little distorted to me. Yes, no?
I agree. If I didn't have a bunch of gear here, it would be pretty distorted.
Yeah, Jim, you're coming through clear. Am I coming through clear?
Yes.
Coming through clear to me. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, it's really exciting to be here. I'm sorry I was a little late in my actual appearance. So I'm parenting. This is the exciting thing about doing book appearances during the pandemic. You're kind of a little appearance, a little parenting. So I kind of go in and out with the video. And when I'm not in video, I'm lurking and listening while I'm parenting and, providing snacks and handling other parenting type business. But it's lovely. The pandemic is all bad except for the advantages, which as a parent are that I can actually participate in things without having to leave the house. So I am really excited about this anthology, and was asked to write something, and I had nothing when I was first asked. I've been under contract with Kensington Books to write a book a year, which is just such an incredibly fast schedule, plus working and being a mom. And so I just had nothing. And folks asked me and I was like, I got nothing. And then, I said, ask me later. And then they asked me later. I was like, I still got nothing. But around that time, so I write heist fiction, or most of the books that I've published are heist fiction. So I love a good heist, so I'm always ready for a new heist. And also, at the time, I was trying to get my kid registered in the Berkeley schools, and I've lived in Berkeley for the better part of my entire life, since I was like 3. And yet, trying to register a kid for school in Berkeley was like a CIA background check. Like, I literally did not have enough legitimate paperwork to prove that I had lived here for decades, because it's so rigorous, because, Berkeley has a good reputation, and families from neighboring districts are trying to, hustle their kids in. And so, and at the same time, as a Black parent of a Black child, I wasn't sure that I wanted my kid to even be in Berkeley schools, because because Berkeley has become so gentrified, and the public schools have become so much whiter than the Berkeley schools that I went to as a young person. So it was in that place that a short story bubbled up in my mind, which was a mother who lives outside of Berkeley kind of pulling a heist to try and get her kid into the Berkeley schools. And, I set it in an imaginary town. So there's this imaginary town that lives in the imaginary world of my head called Holloway. And Holloway is sort of out past Richmond on the BART line. And it's this town where actually my new book is set there, which is called A Spy in the Struggle. And they have this biotech firm. And the book is, it's actually, it's my first standalone novel in a spy book, where I'm very excited, where it's about a young Black woman who is an FBI agent who's sent to infiltrate an eco-racial justice organization in the Bay Area, right? And they send her, and so then drama and intrigue and hijinks ensue. So it's kind of a dark book, but it's also very much sort of a Black Lives Matter era book about, what is law enforcement really doing, right? And how is law enforcement interacting with protests?
Oh.
and how our police and the FBI interacting with, you know, our democracy and our rights to freedom. So so one thing is that Holloway is an imaginary town past Richmond. And the other thing to know, if you read the book later, it's called Frederick Douglass Elementary School, and Frederick Douglass is also an imaginary elementary school. But just so you know, in my mind, the school that I see in Berkeley is BAM, which used to stand for Berkeley Arts Magnet, but it's not an arts magnet anymore. And it used to be Whittier, the elementary school that I went to way back. So get to the short excerpt. Frederick Douglass Elementary, West Berkeley Flats. Keisha waited until everyone else left the office. It was Friday night and nobody seemed to be working late. Still, she shoved her sweatshirt up against the bottom of the door in case any light could be seen. Only then did she turn on the fluorescent light in the windowless copy room. A few weeks before, she had swiped a contract on letterhead from a real estate agency. Earlier that day, she had borrowed a coworker's computer to write the fake lease for a rental apartment. She had copied the language off the internet, but was anxious about any spelling or grammatical errors, especially because she couldn't save a forged document on a company computer. She had sat at her data entry cubicle during lunch, reading the words over and over until they blurred, proofreading it to the best of her ability. That night in the copy room, she cut and pasted and made copies of copies until she had a reasonable looking forgery on fine linen paper. She squinted at it in the glaring fluorescent. It looked legit. It proved that she had rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Berkeley. Keisha and her 7-year-old son, Marchand, lived in Holloway, a few towns north of Berkeley, just past Richmond at the end of the BART line. Holloway's student population was nearly all Black and Latino, but the teachers were predominantly white. All of the schools were performing far below the national average, and the district was on the verge of bankruptcy. Her son had been bullied by bigger boys, and one of the teachers had been fired for hitting a student. Apparently, the administration had tolerated it for years, but one of the staff had caught it on video, and it had gone viral on social media. That was the last straw. Keisha wasn't going to allow her son to be in a school where white teachers were physically abusive, but she couldn't afford private school. Even a partial scholarship was out of the question. Bay Area rents were exorbitant. Girl, her mother had told her 2 weeks before her due date, "You need to get ready to have this baby." Her ex-boyfriend's mom called after the video went viral of the teacher hitting the student. One of my friends from church called me, said the woman who would have been her mother-in-law.
Uh-oh.
Asked,
Okay.
"Is that your grand school, Holloway?" The child into the Berkeley Public Schools. Thank you.
Whoa. Okay. Thank you very much. Nice. Read the whole story. Thank you. And I see Jason Rittler's in the house. Hey, Jason. So we're doing is sharing a little bit about the location and also then a little excerpt of the story. And yeah. Hi, Jason. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, all things considered. Can anyone and everyone hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Good. So thanks for having me. Does this mean I'm next in line, or am I last because I showed up last?
No, you're next in line. We're going to finish with Mr. Hill.
Oh, well, go out on top. Smart. So I'm Jay Riddler. I'm a historian and writer. I lived in West Berkeley and Richmond and El Cerrito and taught in Albany for about 7 years before, similar to other people, the Bay was going to kill me. And I decided to head north to Sacramento, where it's at least feasible to live as a person who is a historian part-time. So when I was considering the story here, it was kind of an amalgamation of 3 things that were smashing each other in the face, one of which was 2 things that were very noir. One of which was, like in Zora Neale Hurston's work and in Richard Wright's work, there are moments of utter and complete desperation where the protagonist cannot get out of the jam they're in without doing something fatal. And I thought about that, and I was like, there are moments that are not nearly as difficult as as theirs, that I'm starting to see crop out because I was living below the poverty line throughout all that period. So the desperate was class-based. And with that, I started this was happening at the same time that I was listening to like This American Life or something, and they talked about the shifting nature of pornography as regards medium. Like, it's no longer, as Tom Waits would say, making the scene with a magazine. It is now, it exploded and it is free. At the same time, those who make money off of it, at least in the modern, this episode, we're talking about niche markets where it's designed for one person alone. This is where money is made in this dark corridor of capitalism. And at the same time, there was a lot of creepy stuff about deep fakes, about facial recognition software that recreates faces and places them on other living beings in video. And the darkness of that struck me as something worthy of investigation. At the same time, I was living in pretty rough circumstances, and all of my illusions about being raised in Canada of and being a privileged white guy, like all the privilege, all of it's here, was that, oh, okay, everything I grew up with is a lie. Meritocracy, I've never found it. The system does not work. Academia will not save you, and capitalism sure as shit won't. And with these illustrious illusions, I decided to write a story set in West Berkeley at Aquatic Park, which is a denizen of weird. I remember saying there was a wonderful trumpet player who used to do like game show theme songs. So you'd be like, Price is Right was going on while you walked by, or in my case, Run. There were ducks, there were kids getting high, there were families, there were folks making the best of what they could. And there were an awful lot of people that wore like professional makeup that went jogging. I don't get this. I sweat like a monster when I jog, but there were men, women, and every part in between that would be, it was like a glam shoot in motion, including one strange woman who did this while pushing a dog in a child's carrier. Oh, so I said, I've got to stick this story. So it's a story about desperation, choices you have to make but don't want to, all set against the backdrop of Berkeley Weird.
Bravo. Oh, love it.
Should I begin, or are we going through just the origin stories?
Let's go a little sample, yeah, little snippet.
All right, a very small taste. Pardon me, I'm going blind.
Oh no.
Now. Worried you were gone, bro. We'd circled North Berkeley BART once, like friends who didn't want to go home, because this is what the market wants. Not tomes analyzing the realpolitik in Stalin's Russia, or the butchery of the Gulag in gold mining, or anything else from my fields. Need fresh shots, nothing fuzzy, clear, 100. I can make anything work, but 100 is best. Give me variety to play with, allows for redundancy. Video good if you can scratch it. The homeless bundle around us shook. Slip-on sandals and black-bottom white socks. It nestled like a dust bunny on the outer rotunda of the station, desiccated mouth twitching beneath a yellow warrior shirt. We descended the stairs to a parking lot that neither of us used, Ford bikes with punctured tires stationed to our left. Variety is good, but just the face. My next class was 8 a.m., if Bernie showed. 5chan snorted at me, then spat phlegm on the windshield of a red Prius. The body is useless to our client. A gaggle of passengers scurried down to the station with intentional steps and a panoply of uniforms, suits, skirts, bike shorts, designer jeans with custom rips, and everyone's perfume and cologne long liquidated. Meet in 2 weeks, here on Saturday. Old emails are dead. Got it? I nodded. 5chan liked me timid, quiet, and listening. Made him feel in control. And it bought me work and information. 5chan lit up an immaculately rolled joint and took his time dragging it in the smoke. Hoodie, limited edition Purple Rain concert shirt before his time by a decade, chucks and well-cultivated and shiny beard that smelled of pine. Berkeley trash. But computers got him leveled up. He'd never offered me a hit. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. Jason, thanks a lot, brother. That's nice, man.
Good to see you again, Jerry.
We met at Allen Company as well. What? Piedmont Avenue. Owen Hill. Hey, brother.
Hey, hello.
See you, brother.
You know, I got to do this project also because I was in an independent bookstore. I work at Moe's. Jerry came in. Within seconds, we became friends and started kicking around the idea of doing Berkeley Noir. His Oakland Noir is also a great compilation. So I was just off of editing and annotating The Big Sleep, the Chandler book, which was a daunting 5-year affair. And I got handed this amazing, wonderful, frankly, easy project of curating all these great stories that just kind of flew in thanks to Jerry's contacts and I think some of mine. And it's just like, it's easy money. I've read your stories, of course, multiple times, and I just didn't get sick of them. It's great stuff. I'm going to read from my story, which calls back a group of sort of detective urban terrorists from my first 2 novels. Last one's from PM Press. It's called The Incredible Doubles. So there's my plug. This deals with gentrification in what is being called the Gilman district out in sort of West Berkeley. It used to be a nice cheap place to try to avoid getting mugged. Suddenly these huge structures were built in the middle of it, and my characters as urban terrorists are checking out one of the CEO's lofts and I'll read a couple of paragraphs of this. Marvin suggested that we all go for a stumble and have a look at the CEO's bunker. We helped each other off the couch, Dino's scent mingling with Patty's in the warm, late afternoon. We walked past SPD in a sort of circular way toward Gilman. The gourmet burgers, the free trade coffees, the vegan joint, the Whole Foods, chunky guys with beards buried in their devices. It was looming, almost as big as the Whole Foods down the street. Truly bunker-like, although too tall, maybe 3 stories. Military-style brushed chrome, brick facade, blackout windows. There was still a loading dock entrance in keeping with the industrial chic, a place to house the Tesla, perhaps. Workers used to sweat in places like this. Now they are luxury homes. Where are the sweaty workers? I wondered what it was like inside, curious, but also a little queasy, that way the hoi polloi view the aristocracy. And the poor love it and think it's crazy. We looked at the thing like apes before a monolith, then walked silently back to Marvin's place.
Oh yeah, thanks. That's great. Wonderful. I would love to name out a few of the other contributors that are in the book that are not with us this evening. We have Mara Faye Letham, who has a story called Twin Flames, and her story is set in the south side of Berkeley. Thomas Birchfeld, and his story is called Lucky Day, and it's set at the Berkeley Public Library. It's a great story as well. Barry Gifford is in the collection. His gem is called Barroom Butterfly, and it's somewhat set in the central Berkeley area. We have Shanti Sakaran, who sets her story in Kensington area. Her story is called Eat Your Pheasant, Drink Your Wine. It's told in the viewpoint of a rat. Nick Mamontes, who is also in-house with the Berkeley Books, Inc. Hey, Nick. His story is called Every Man and Every Woman is a Star, and it's set in the Ho Chi Minh Park. Kim Nelson, who also works at Moe's Books, her story is called Still Life Reviving, and her story is set in the Ocean View area. And who else we have? Susan Dunlap, super legend. Susan Dunlap is in the collection. Her story is called The Law of Local Karma, and it's set in the gourmet ghetto. We've all been there. Summer Brenner is also in the collection, which is so fantastic. Her story is called Identity Theft, and it's set in North Berkeley. And and Michael David Lucas, absolutely. His story is called Dear Fellow Graduates, and it's set in Indian Rock. Great lineup, great gathering of folks living and loving Berkeley. So thank you all very much. Is there any questions from our audience members? Elena? Is she coming back?
Sorry, took a second to find the button. Yes, we do have a great question for all of you to answer. Also, many shout outs to Manny in the chat. So we got some XOXOs that I can't even count. And oh my God, so good Manny and genial Manny. So
those are all my friends. I paid them to be here.
You're not supposed to tell us that. That's not how it works. And a question for all of you to answer is, what is the writing process for everyone? Do you write a little each day, into the late night, in long spurts? And how do you get over a writer's block?
If we're going with everyone, we can start and do the same order, I guess.
Yeah, however order you want. Yeah, it would make sense to go in the same order. Then it won't be chaos.
I don't know if anybody else is in this particular position in our group, but I'm in the position of being a freelance writer. So most of my work is as a journalist. I'm on deadline all the time. And as a freelancer, if I'm not working, I'm not making money. So it's a hustle. And I take that ethos to my fiction writing as well. I set deadlines for myself. And that's not like the most romantic answer in the world. But I try to set deadlines in terms of submitting things for fellowships or for literary magazine deadlines, stuff like that. And then ideally, I have long jags sometimes if I get into like a writing retreat, or I'll do sometimes self-retreats and I'll just, DIY it. And, I've done anywhere from a long weekend to 2 weeks of just working on a single project. And I think in terms of getting over writer's block, sometimes you're like, how could I possibly work on this for 2 weeks? And the answer is just kind of like getting my butt in the chair a lot of times, which is just sort of forcing myself to be like, okay, like maybe the sentence I'm writing is not going to be the most beautiful sentence in the world, but I know the general direction of what I'm going to write, and I'm just going to write something so that I have something to work with. I have something to edit. And for me, that's really, the process is so much about generative writing, of course, but even more about the editing process, the revision process. So if I have something that I can revise, I have a direction to move in.
Great.
Whoever went in the order next, I can't remember now the beginning what order we had everybody go in. So whoever wants to answer next, please feel free if you're ready to answer that question. If you want to answer that question, you certainly don't have to.
I think it was me, right?
I think it was. And
yeah.
also, after I said you got shout outs, you got more. So they're gonna want to hear from you.
So the question is, as far as the writing process, or okay, so I am a high school teacher teaching. I'm a part of a few amazing writing groups as well. And for me, the process, and I'm married, and it's like, so I'm saying all of this because finding the time to do it for me has been a very, very deliberate thing. Like, I have to feel like at least productive or sane or truly dedicated to this. I feel like I have to find at least, if I'm going to round it out to hours, at least 5 hours a week. And that's basically what I give myself right now, because anything more would be a little bit like just too nuts with everything else that's going on in my life. But that said, I'm still taking time to read, and that inspires me as well. And reading, you know, and writer's block. I mean, I don't think I've had that for a while. Knock on whatever I have around me. But that's just basically it. I try to write as much as I possibly can with the time that I have, and yeah, edit as I go along, and because it keeps me alive, and because that's what we do.
Nice. Yay. Good for us.
Jerry, I don't remember who was next in the line.
Lucy.
Okay.
Yeah. I write every day, mainly because it's just one of the few things I know how to do, so it makes me feel good to do it. I love these process questions, actually, because I think they're really important to everyone. And I mean, one thing to remember, I think, is everybody's process is completely different. Some people write, you know, once every other week and it works for them, but I like to write every day. I like to write first thing in the morning, because if I don't, all the rest of my life eats up that time. So I try to give it priority as much as I can. So I'm a pretty early morning person, and I try to do that. I don't believe in writer's block. I feel like if something's not going well, it's because I haven't figured it out yet. And I think sometimes believing in writer's block is what creates writer's block. Like, say it doesn't exist and I'm working on this paragraph or this scene and it takes me a few weeks, it's because I'm still working on trying to figure out how it fits with the story and what I want to say. So that kind of relaxes me to just say, okay, I have to just keep looking at this from a different point of view. I do want to say that my collection of short stories called Lava Falls, which came out a year ago, is coming out in paper in 2 weeks. So just wanted, if you like my story, I have a whole bunch of them in Lava Falls, and that's coming out in paper on September 15th. So.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you. Can't wait.
All right, I think I'm next. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I think
Great. Yes, I love it. Yeah, like what a lot of folks have been saying. Like Lucy Jane, I wake up early, so I'm parenting, I got a job, I got too much going on. And when I wake up in the morning, anytime between 5 and 6:30, I go straight to the desk and I give my, you know, first thing in the morning, probably 6 out of 7 days a week, I give to my writing. Some days there are other things pressing that need my best mind. So I give it my best mind. Here's what
Oh dear.
About writer's block. Readers are ever really blocked.
Shoot.
The capacity to write, accepting what it is.
You froze for a minute. We missed what you said about writer's block. Please repeat.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
No, it's a cliffhanger. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, like, I think that the thing about writer is you're capable of writing at that time. And it's the desire to be able to do or write or be able to produce something that you can't produce in that moment. You can't produce yet, or it's just that dissatisfaction. Because, you know, people have talked about, I have writer's block, and I'm like, well, you know, just write the same word over and over. You're writing. It's just not what you want to be writing, right? And so really, for me, getting past writer's block is accepting what it is. And one of the biggest tools that I've used is NaNoWriMo, which some of you know is National Novel Writing Month, which is in November, when people write a novel and they have these great slogans like no plot, no problem, and quantity over quality. And that's the only way that I've been able to write a book a year, is by writing just the worst first draft in like 1 or 2 months. And I'm, you know, and I do it any time of the year. Right now I'm working on a nano of my book that's due for next year. And it's just great because there's no judgment. It's really just about getting the words on the page. And once you get them on the page, then you can start to shape them into the book you really want. But the block for me is really when I am hard on myself and feel like this isn't good enough. And what's great about writing for word count is if you hit the number, you know you've done a good job, and you can give yourself that pat on the back or the gold star for the day and keep it moving.
Nice, great. Hey, Jim, you want to share a little bit before we wrap up? Oh, he's still muted. Jim's muted. Oh.
You're muted, Jim.
Jim Nisbet. Elena. Oh, there we go. Oh, he took him off again. Oh no.
I unmuted him and then he remuted himself. I'm sorry.
Oh.
This is technology here. I think. There he is. Okay.
Well, actually, I don't have anything to say.
Excellent. What? We missed it.
I was trying to read your lips, Jim.
Hey, I was a carpenter for 50 years. And, you know, if I wanted to write a book, I had to save up the bucks. And the first book I published, I wrote in 3 weeks. They bought the first draft. And I had to go back to work. You know, I didn't have the money to buy the time to have writer's block. And that's continued through my life. I mean, time has always been very precious, money hardly there at all, etc. So it's like, you want to write a book, do it. If you don't talk about it, just go back to work, man. Because work can always use you if you're lucky. What was it? Okay. Was there another question there?
That's good. That feels
all right.
Good. Bravo. Thank you, Jim. Hey, Jason, what's up?
Let's see. It changes over time. Process changes over time. For me, I like the joy of having, there's a part of my brain that only lights up when I'm doing this kind of creative work. Otherwise, it's dark. So if I start a project, I have the joy of having this little fire with me that fills in, questions, fills in with research, character, plot, all this kind of stuff, if I'm consistent with it over time. And for me, like many others who have, danced the freelance dance, I tried to do an hour a day. It's not always possible. I mean, life takes over, but there is something, when I returned to writing after having a break for a very good reason, there was something powerful about starting that engine and just seeing the spark. And it's staying with me every day, and then it starts growing into story, and then it grows into plot, and then you're foreshadowing stuff. But with regards to writer's block, I don't think I've ever had it, so I don't really have, unless you accept the idea that sometimes it's hard to start, and that's a form of writer's block. In part because, especially for beginners, there's the entirety of your genius up in the imaginative space, and actually getting it on paper is messy and ugly, and it doesn't look like the paradigm up there. But I've been like many here, a champion of just write, see what happens. You can always work with what you have, but if you don't put anything down on paper, you can't make something that's bad better. That's me.
Wow. Anything new coming out for you? Do you have a new book coming out soon?
I wish I had. I was part of the cheesing fiasco, so one of my major works will not be coming out this year. That publisher is essentially, for all purposes, has gone dark for terrible reasons to do with the publication itself, sadly. So big projects coming around, we'll see. Currently, everything is in parts unknown.
We still carry your books we carry all your books at Alexander, so I see you.
Well then, by all means, everybody buy the Brimstone Files, and I can afford a cup of coffee in 4 years.
This book's on display. Anyway, hey Owen, what you got?
Okay, I think we have.
I'm okay.
Yeah, Owen has.
Okay. You can hear me. I don't get something down on paper every day, but I block out the time, and I've been lucky enough to have the same job and the same number of hours and schedule for many years. So the time is there. If I'm working on something and I feel like the tank is empty, I switch over to another project. I write poetry and I write fiction and do some editing. So there's always like, I can't do another chapter of this novel. It's getting boring. So I'll work on a poem. I don't, I'm like also one of those people who, why call it writer's block? It's, I'm too tired today, or it's, I'm lucky enough to not have a deadline, so I'm going to take a week off. And like you say, if you like doing it, or if you have to do it, you do it. And it's amazing what comes out if you just throw it against the wall sometimes and see what happens. And I don't know, at least for me, it's not a painful thing if I run out of ideas for a week or so. It just, it was not a great week.
But you're also working on can I make an announcement? You're working on a memoir?
I'm working on a memoir, Bootstrap Press, great small press. We don't have a pub date because nobody knows what the future is of anything, but it's there and it's been edited, and it may sit a while. I may have to write a memoir about the memoir.
I'll be right there, front row. I think that's it, Elena. I think we've shared and loved up Berkeley.
Yeah, I did see Lexi helped answer in the chat and said other helpful tips for writer's block: join a supportive writing group, try writing in longhand if you typically write on a laptop or in a new location, go for a walk. Moving physically sometimes helps shake ideas loose. I think you all offered very good tips, and writer's block is not necessarily a thing unless you let it be. So I think that's all what you were trying to say, and that's really hard to realize unless you really think of it that way. So I think you're all very right. Ha, that's a pun. There I am. I did want to ask one last question. There was a good one at the end of the Q&A. If you all want to recommend either your favorite book or your favorite thing that you've currently read. My brain is totally warped, and I've read one book in the last 6 months. So that feels weird as a bookseller and a book lover. So if you have nothing to recommend, I totally get it. But if you have anything you would love to share, I think that would be a nice way to end it. And I will plug links into the chat as we go, and feel free to just go in whatever order. Whoever wants to go first, it's who gets the kill. So
I'll go. I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the book that just stays on the top of my mind for the last couple of years is My Sister, the Serial Killer. And it's just such a good book. It's Nigerian, very dark, technically it's literary fiction, but it won the LA Times Crime Book Award because it's super crimey. And yeah, it's just, it's fabulous. And it's, that on that line between genre and literary fiction, where it's just incredibly well written and compelling and opens up this world, but is also just super kind of creepy meditation on gender and violence and family drama in Nigeria.
Right on.
The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett is, I'm still reading it, but it's just, I mean, it is just off the hook. It's such a great, and I don't even want to give any of it away. I just think that it's very timely and like excellently executed work. It's beautiful, and everybody should read it.
It's selling a lot these days too. Nice.
I've been reading, I read a lot, but I would say that the works that have stuck most with me from reading this past year or so have been On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, which is just like this outstandingly gorgeous novel. Most people probably know who he is. He was originally a poet, and it is a novel, but he blows up the idea of what a novel can be and does not follow sort of traditional plot structure at all in this just really incredible way. And he also has a beautiful collection of poems called Night Sky with Exit Wounds, which I also really recommend.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. I've read so much. The last couple of years, I feel like I've just been stellar in publishing fiction. I don't know why, but there's been a lot of amazing stuff. I love reading stuff that you don't hear about much and you just kind of find. Because I didn't know how to answer, because I go blank, I just turned around and looked at my bookshelf and pulled 2 books that have been amazing that I've read recently. Carolina de Robertis' Cantores, about a group of women in Uruguay, and I think, oh God, the 1970s, I believe.
Yes!
Fabulous novel. This book by Aminata Forna called Happiness takes place in Britain. Another fabulous novel. There's so much good stuff out there that you kind of have to dig for, because the bestsellers are usually pretty boring. But yeah, there's a lot of really, really fabulous. Those are 2 things I've loved.
Fabulous.
I'll jump in. Let's see. The Man Who Loved Dogs, Leonardo Padura. A fascinating three narrative tale about Leon Trotsky in exile, I can't remember, Ramon, who is the name of the assassin that was sent to kill him, and a disenfranchised gay Cuban who is losing his love of socialism as he's getting older. And it's how all of these weave together. My eyesight is getting worse. Type is tiny. I couldn't put this book down. And this is a bit older. Arikunzu, White Tears. It is a phenomenal tale about white privilege that really just pulls no punches, about 2 sort of, I don't know, millennial-esque, one rich, one poor, who make a name for themselves sort of appropriating ancient blues songs. And sadly, it reminded me of a lot of my worst friends from high school when it comes to appropriation. And we're really into the blues. So both of those were excellent. You won't go wrong.
Awesome.
I'll go. A couple of, I guess I'd say, rising crime novels that I'm loving. Steph Cha and Attica Locke. Both just excellent noir. I'm also reading, there's a little over a year ago, I think, a new translation of Bertolt Brecht came out. I'm being a bad book critic here because I can't remember the translator, but it's amazing, and I've been going with that. And at the beginning of all this, I reread Moby Dick, and you can get to even Moby Dick pretty fast if you don't have to work for a living. I'm going to like retirement if it ever comes. So that's pretty much what I've been reading.
All right.
Owen, you cut out, Owen. So if you want to type them into the chat, so I can let the folks know what you said. I didn't catch all those
Sure.
titles.
I got Moby Dick.
That's what she said.
You.
That's with a hyphen, right?
Yeah.
Elena.
I swear I'm a professional.
Oh,
Anyone else? Lexi,
Yeah.
I think Lexi typed in something as well in the chat. I thought I saw something. There's a lot going on in the chat. But Jim, go ahead.
Hilary Mantel's Tudor trilogy about Cromwell, I think, is an incredible achievement. I burned through it. My wife burned through it. It's an amazing book, well written if you're into and historically accurate. That biography of Monk by Robin Power? Who knows this book? He's a guy that's looks pretty young to me. UCLA has written a lot of books about race in America. He's a scholar, and it's one of the best jazz biographies, or one of the best biographies I've ever read. It's amazing. And I just happen to have, let's see, can we see this? That's backwards.
No,
For me, it's backwards. Can you guys read it? The Black Poets. This is a legendary anthology that I guess, I don't know if that, I actually have 2 or 3 copies of it. It's one of the great, since we're talking about an anthology, this is a great anthology. It's mostly heartbreaking, but it's very strong, very powerful stuff. Recommended. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you, Elena.
Jerry, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh. Well, I reread Berkeley Noir last night. Phenomenal book.
That doesn't count. We already talked about that.
No, I just want to thank everyone for coming to us today. It's been so great to have all of us together and some of them for the first time. And to show our connection is just loving. It's just wonderful that we can do this. I hope we can do it again, maybe live.
It's nice to meet you at last, Jerry.
Yes, to be continued with our martini.
Okay, to be continued.
Thanks so much for hosting, and thanks so much for the anthology. I'm grateful Berkeley is on the noir map.
Oh yes, so are we. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry, thanks for bringing so many of us together, not just here, but like even for the anthology itself. I think that you've been such a conduit to I mean, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much too. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Ciao.
Woohoo!
Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good evening. Happy Friday. Saturday. No, it's Saturday. I don't even know.
Time is meaningless.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.